All right, so here we are, only 10 minutes later than start time. Welcome everyone to the Licking County Computer Society program meeting for Sunday, March 19th, I think. Everybody can still see me and hear me, I hope, and also see my screen. That's good. All right, so I'm Adam Drake. Today I'll be presenting on computer backups. This is, I believe it's National Computer Backup Month. Not sure if I said that entirely correctly, but they're seeing my face on the screen instead of the deck. Everett. The deck's very small in the corner.
Well, all I did was
Yeah, try hitting
that thumbnail.
that top right. There, right there. That, yeah. There we go.
Oh, okay.
People in here don't need to see me on the camera. They can see me right sitting here. So, all right. So I used Chat GPT to help write this presentation. If you guys haven't heard of that, it's an artificial intelligent chat site that you can use online to basically ask anything and it gives you answers. It's very smart. It's still in beta. Some of the data that it has is out of date, but it's fun to play with. You can even go out there and like have it write, poems about funny things in your life. You can do anything with it, and it's very fast and it's very smart. So check it out if you have time to waste. In my case, it actually made me more productive here. All right, I don't see the next slide yet. There it is. That took a long time. All right, so for the introduction, I'm the newish vice president of the Licking County Computer Society. I'm also a software engineering group manager at PNC Bank. I'm a member of the CTEC IT advisory board, and I'm a lifetime resident of Licking County. I'm currently residing in Heath, married, 2 teenage children, 1 cat, 1 dog, and I'm a graduate of Utica High School, CTEC, COTC, DeVry, and Franklin. Hobbies are playing with Linux, running video games when I have time, which is not very often. And then about Chat GPT is kind of what I already said, and it's an open AI model, interacts in a conversational way. See if we can get to the next slide faster this time. Yeah, that's taking a long time to.
Well,
yeah.
We see it right away.
Okay, so it's just the screen here that takes a minute to refresh. All right. So goals of the presentation here. We just want to understand what computer backups are, why they're important, a few examples of applications you can use for backing up, some best practices, a little bit about disaster recovery, and then a demonstration. So what is a computer backup? So a computer backup is a duplicate copy of data that you store on a computer or another electronic device that's created for the purpose of recovering your data in case the original data is lost, corrupted, or destroyed. They're useful for restoring data after hardware failures, software errors, viruses, accidental deletion, floods, hurricanes, you name it. Different types of backups are full, incremental, differential, full image backups. We'll talk about those later. Sorry, allergies. Backups can be stored in a variety of different types of locations. You have external hard drives. We have a couple here that are going to be auctioned off if everyone stays to the end of the Q&A session here. Door prizes, yes. Not auction, raffled. Yeah. However you. So we have network attached storage devices, cloud storage services, which is an example of that would be like Google Drive in the cloud. Physical media like tapes or DVDs. Regularly creating and updating your backups is crucial to ensure that your important data can be recovered in the event of a disaster. Just waiting for the next slide to pick up here. There we go. So more about computer backups or the different types. So a full backup is a complete copy of all the data on a computer or device. It's the most comprehensive type of backup, but it's also the most time consuming And if you're doing a full backup every time, it's going to put more wear and tear on your devices also. And incremental backup is one that only copies the data that's changed since the last backup. This type of backup's faster, requires less storage space than a full backup. A differential backup, for most purposes, is going to be very similar to an incremental backup. But this one is between a full backup and an incremental backup on performance, but it uses more disk space in incremental backup because it has the base full backup, but it copies all the changes and keeps the originals also. A mirror backup takes an exact copy of the data. It's usually used for disaster recovery. It can be expensive in terms of storage space. And then a selected backup is where you're only backing up selected files or folders. Some examples of those would be like your documents, your pictures, your movies, whatever you don't want to lose. And then a continuous backup, which is also known as a synchronizing, two machines, is a backup that automatically saves changes to data in real time or at set intervals. All right. Next slide here is importance of backing up for protecting your data. So if you can see this picture, it's kind of hard to see, but these ladies are saying their computers are down, so they have to do everything manually, and they're playing solitaire on their desk there. All right, protection against data loss. Backing up your important files and documents is a safeguard against loss of data, obviously, due to the different types of issues that you can have with your hardware. Catastrophic failures, etc. Another one's disaster recovery for natural disasters such as fires, floods, you name it. Another one is for version control. If you're making changes to files and you want to be able to look at previous versions of those files and the changes you've made historically, a version control backup will allow you to go back and look at historic versions of those files. And also business continuity. For businesses, backups are essential for maintaining operations in the event of a data loss for any reason. Options for creating backups. There's several options. External hard drive, that's a very popular one. I'm sure everyone knows what that is. Typically, it's going to be a USB connection to a spinning hard drive or solid state drive that just sits in a dock, just like the ones on the table there that we're going to be giving away. Cloud storage, as I mentioned, includes services such as Google Drive, Dropbox. OneDrive is a popular one that comes with Microsoft Windows. Network attached storage, as I mentioned, it's a device that's similar to an external hard drive, except it's on the network. It doesn't have to be USB connected to your machine. It's connected via Ethernet or wireless, and it can be one or more drives in a network attached storage. There's backup software that's very popular, like Acronis, TrueImage, EaseUS, Norton 360 are some examples. There's a lot of examples, and some of the most popular ones are built right into the operating system, such as Windows 10 and Mac OS come with Windows Backup and Restore, or Mac comes with Time Machine. And even your phones have backup solutions built in. So some options for backing up Windows. First one is file history. So this is when you right click on a file, and if you have it enabled, Windows will let you view previous versions of that file. So it'd be handy like on a document or any type of file that you could be editing multiple times. It'll let you go back and look at histories of the file and also restore them to an older version of the file. Backup and Restore came out with Windows 7. It's still available in Windows 10, and I believe Windows 11 allows you to create a system image backup or a full backup of your computer. You can even create scheduled backups to automatically do the backups, so you don't even have to worry about it. So that's built right into Windows. System Restore is a feature that creates restore points on your computer. A lot of the times it's used before performing Windows backups and so forth. And that lets you restore the entire system to a previous point in time. OneDrive, I'm sure you've all heard of that. It's a cloud-based storage service that allows you to save your files and access them from any device with internet access. Also used for automatic file backup and sync. And then one thing you guys probably don't need to worry about on the server side for Windows is Windows Server Backup. It's only available in Windows Server Editions, used to backup and restore the entire server or selected files and folders. So it's going to be very similar to Windows 7 backup and restore. Some backup options on Linux. And I know there's a lot more than these. And this is where ChatGPT helped me out, and it didn't help me out super well. So it listed tar as an option. I kept it in there because it's not really a backup tool per se, but it's used to compress and store archive and compress files to be stored, offsite. rsync is very popular in the Linux world. It's a command line tool that's used to synchronize files and directories between two locations. Bacula is another popular tool. It's designed for enterprise level environments on Linux. Duplicity is another command line tool that uses GNU PG for encryption and used to back up data to remote servers and can be connected to the clouds, even using Amazon S3 or Dropbox. And then another option is Amanda. It's an open source backup and recovery software designed for small and medium businesses. On the Mac side, so Time Machine is the one that a lot of people are using on the Macs. It's a built-in backup feature of Mac OS. Creates automatic backups of your entire system, including all the files and settings. It can be used to restore your entire system or individual files. Then you have iCloud, which is the cloud-based service that's used on iPads and iPhones. Backs up all your contacts, photos, basically anything on your phone or mobile device. Carbon Copy Cloner is one that I hadn't heard of. It's a third-party backup software used to create bootable backups of your entire system. So that could come in handy if you need to, have your system set exactly how you want it, and then you want to have a safe copy of it in case you break it. Super Duper, that's one I've never heard of, but it's a third-party backup software for Mac OS. And then Backblaze is a cloud-based backup service used to automatically back up entire system to the cloud. And I think Backblaze can be used for more than just Mac. Next slide, mobile phone backup options. Like I mentioned, iCloud, I described that on the previous screen. Google Drive is like iCloud for Android. It lets you back up your contacts, photos, calendars, all your important things from your phone. Samsung Cloud, I haven't heard from. And then also on the bottom there, Smart Switch. Those are both specific to Samsung Galaxy phones. I don't have much experience with them, but they're very similar to the Google Drive. And then iTunes. iTunes was what people used before iCloud came around, but I believe it's still available for backups, especially for music and media. So best practices for computer backups. You want to ensure your backups are effective. You want to back up frequently. I would say at least once a week if you're doing the partial backups. If you're doing full backups from scratch, I'd maybe do that once a month, but myself, I do an incremental backup every day. Storage location is important. To have a reliable backup, the professionals recommend to have 3 copies of your data, one primary that's in use. So if you have a laptop like this one, that's your first copy. Your second copy could be an external hard drive because you want 2 types of storage. And then your third copy should be off-site, ideally, so that if your home is destroyed and you have 3 copies of your data and it's all in your house, you lose it all. So you could use a cloud service for your off-site. I use Google Drive to back up my photos and documents, the really important stuff. Then everything else like video files and stuff that I have on my server, I have 2 copies of those. They're both in my house, but if I lose those, I can always purchase new copies. So disaster recovery planning. I put this in here just to give you guys an idea of what do we do at PNC Bank where I work. We have 2 data centers that are basically always up and running and available. If one goes down, we just automatically fail over to the other data center, minimal time lost. We have 6 hours to get all our applications moved over, but usually we can do it in less than 4 hours. The chance of having an actual disaster and needing to exercise the failover is rare, but we still practice it once a year. We'll fail over from one data center to the other and just stay there till the next year. So which computer backup method is the best? the one you actually use. So if you have something very elaborate where you have to, take out 20 drives and hook them up individually and type in a 20-character passcode, and it takes you 4 hours to back up your machine, or if you have to swap out tapes to back up all your photos and documents, you're probably not going to want to do that. So this, to me, it's the simplest one, and the one you're actually willing to use is going to be the best. And if it's automated, even better. All right, so a little demonstration here. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and switch to sharing, switch to sharing my entire desktop. And let me turn that off. Right. So the first thing I wanted to show you guys, on Linux, there's an application called TimeShift. And it's going to be similar to the applications they have for Mac and maybe even Windows. But I installed TimeShift and I haven't backed anything up yet. So as you can see, I have a 240 gigabyte hard drive in this machine, and I plugged in an external, actually, I should show you guys that way. I plugged in an external 1 terabyte hard drive. I have 2 partitions on it, 500 gigabytes each, one for TimeShift, one for another backup solution. So for TimeShift, to create your backup, all you do is hit create. It's looking at the installed system here, which isn't very large because I haven't really done anything on here except install Zoom and so forth. Let me stop this actually, because I might have made my screen a little too small. So where I want to back up to is TimeShift here. This TimeShift share that I created. So now you can set your schedule to go weekly, and you can keep previous versions. Fortunately, I can't see my entire screen, and that's because I zoomed in to make it easier to see. But let me see if I can close this and then do a create. Now it'll start creating the image of this. So this TimeShift backs up the installed system, but none of your personal files. To back up your personal files, there's another program I recommend, which the reason they don't recommend backing up your personal files with TimeShift is if you're using TimeShift and you have your system backed up and you need to restore it because you had, a bad update come through on Linux, it would overwrite all your changes that you've made to your personal files. So for that, I recommend a different tool called Pika Backup. And Pika Backup is a lot more modern, but it's made more for files than for actual system. So if I want to say location on disk, and I want to use the Pika Backup partition that I created, select not a backup ballot. Oh, you know what? I might have said existing repository. That's why. Let's try this. All right. So the backup's going to be called ZBook Drake. I'm going to make it unencrypted this time, but you can make it encrypted if you want to type an encryption key. Click create. It's creating the backup repository. So similar to the TimeShift application, you can set it up to back up on a schedule here. We'll just do daily at 5 p.m. Sounds good. And then if we go here, you can also, it's by default, it's going to back up my entire home directory, which is like your user directory on Windows. And it's only excluding the cache file type. So if I hit backup now, this one will probably run very quickly because I don't really have any documents or personal files on here. One minute left. Yep, so that's done. Now, if I go to archives, I can see the archive that I just made. If you go down to it, you can say browse save files, even though they're in the.
We're seeing still the other program.
It's catching up. What program?
The TimeShift.
Really?
Yeah, we were watching it go, but now we're back to the home directory.
Okay, well, this from the Pika backup application, this is a peek into the backup that I made. So that's how you can restore files, is by going into this window and dragging the files to your normal directories that are over here on the left. So the Pika backup was really fast. The time shift is still creating the snapshot. Now, if I go to back into the disk application, you can see on this 1 terabyte hard drive that time shift is so far is using 3.43. It's still going up, but that's where it's creating the backup of the actual operating system. And then this Pika backup one, that's where I backed up the home directory, and it's 1.9% full because I don't really have a lot of files in here. The other thing I was going to show you guys is my server at home. Let's see here. I might have closed that tab on accident. Let's see. Whoops. Give me 1 second. To get into my server, I have to go to this website and grab the latest IP address. This application lets you connect to your machines at home for free. It's pretty nice. All right. So here's my home server interface. If I log in here, there's a plugin for user scripts. And if I go there, you can see that I have this script here. It's called backup from Computron. This takes Computron Junior, sorry. Computron is my server name. Computron Junior is my desktop. If you look at the script, you can see it's using rsync to basically copy all the changes that have happened on my desktop to the server. And it runs pretty quick. Let me see here. I'll go ahead and run it. Should run pretty fast. Yeah, it's done already. There weren't a lot of changes to back up. I have another one that's also uses rsync to back up to an external hard drive that's connected to my server. It's very similar, except it's basically backing up the entire server user share. And then the last one that I wanted to show is one that connects to Google Drive for backup. And it uses an application called rclone, which is a little bit different than rsync. It's because Google Drive, you can't mount Google Drive natively in Linux like you can an external drive, but rclone allows you to connect to Google Drive, basically any cloud service from a command line, and back up that way. So, having shared all that, what kind of questions do you guys have about backups?
I'd like to see like a demonstration or whatever, of what people could do with like a Windows product and
What is his question?
what that.
No, I don't think they're able to hear you. I'd have to switch to my microphones. He'd have to,
Yeah, I'll go on mute and you switch to your mic.
you'll have to turn off your speaker. Okay. Now, John, do you hear us?
Yes,
Oh,
Am I still in the meeting?
yes. You're still sharing.
This is kind of glitchy. I can't stop sharing my screen.
Well, you know I can do that.
John, do you hear us? John?
Just 1 second, guys. Everett's trying to get the room microphone working for the questions here.
I'm hearing Adam real well.
Okay, so it's still coming through his
I can hear you
We're not
fine.
hearing him though. Oh, you know, it's because we're plugged into my laptop and I muted it.
With that,
Better than my hair.
Sorry.
Okay, now, John, say something so I can see as far as speaker votes here.
Okay, we're here at our end, out in the
Slight number, but I
clouds.
don't hear anything.
I'm not hearing. Yeah. Oh, I got the speaker turned off. Okay, John, now speak.
All right, we're here from the cloud.
Yes, we hear you, sir. All right. Jim, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, I just wanted to, most people are using Windows and I'd like to know what they should do as far as backing up and how to back up. So,
I'm not prepared for that, but it's very similar to what you saw in Linux. Obviously, the software applications are going to be different, but even if you're on Windows 10 and you go to your start menu and search for backup, it'll take you right into a wizard for doing the backup.
So where's that information backed up? To a cloud or where? Suppose your computer crashed.
You select the information. So if you have an external drive like this, you choose to back it up to the external drive. If you are using OneDrive and and it hasn't told you that you're out of OneDrive space, then you can back up your space to the OneDrive from Windows. But yeah, I didn't bring a presentation to walk through Windows backup.
But I think we have a few people who have some experience in Windows that could share what they do.
Is there anyone here that backs up their data in Windows that wants to talk about it?
My computer crashed about 8 years ago and I spent about $800 to get all the information back. And I went to Carbonate. Carbonate's costing me $90 a year. It gives me a monthly backup, tells you how many files they backed up for me. And it's easier than I ever thought.
Yeah, I mean, if you're happy with that, definitely stick with it. So it's backing up to the cloud, Carbonate Cloud. Yeah, that's not one I've ever heard of. There's probably hundreds of those services around.
that's a very popular service. Yeah,
Is it?
it's been around for a long time.
Yeah, it was called something else, I think, one time. I think it changed the name, but still as reasonable as it ever was. I mean, I thought it almost used to be free, but now it's not.
The one I use is that easiest to do, which is free. And I always do a full backup. What I do is I back up my current system onto an external drive or whatever. Then to test to make sure it's going to work, I copy it back to another drive. And that's the one I actually run on. So now I have two copies, known good copies of the past system. Then as I update the new one, I save any update files over to that drive. And then if I have to restore it in the meantime, before I make another backup, all that new information is there, I just simply throw it back in. It takes a little effort to do that, but it's very secure. And I've lost my system a few times and it's worked well.
Yeah, I know. Another popular thing that I've heard people do is they'll get two backup drives, keep one at a trusted relative or friend's house. When they go visit, take over the one that they just made, swap them out. That way they always have an offsite backup. And if you don't want to pay or don't trust your data to be in the cloud, it's an option.
Whatever you do as far as backing up, you need to mind or remember how you backed up and what program you used to back up. I think we had a problem trying to get someone's files because he backed it up with a different program. And
That was just a matter of finding the files on the drive. Yeah.
yeah,
And another important piece is that any backup solution you have, you want to test the restore to make sure it works before you have the failure. Because you could find out that you're backing up and that what you're backing up isn't what you think you're backing up, or it's not
retrievable or it's corrupted. So it's important to make sure you test your ability to restore from the backup before you actually lose your data. Does anyone else have any examples of what they do to back up their Windows machines? Or I think when I was back on Windows, I used to back up files to DVDs, rewritable DVDs, and I would keep copies of my stuff that way. But that's been probably over 15 years. So.
John's here.
Hey, John, what's up?
From our APCUG's Wednesday workshops for backing up, you missed out on a couple of ideas. One local idea is a program called Free File Sync, which is a program that will back up your data. It's a synchronizing program that you run and tell it what you do. I won't go into details on that. But it's an excellent program, free, cross-platform, and you can use that to back up the data, because it's the data that's the crucial. The operating system, it can be restored, but it's your data. Two good cloud backup considerations for Windows, not so good for Linux because it's a bad command line, is iDrive. Has a very reasonable price and can back up multiple computers. Always when you're doing cloud, it's going to take a while to back up everything because our upload speeds are always slower than our downloads. But once you have it, iDrive will even send you, I don't know what the financial details, but they will even send you a hard drive when your computer crashes so that you can just throw it in and get all your files back without having to go through the long, download process. Another excellent cloud-based program is pCloud. It has a free limited size, but then reasonable for storage. And, my feeling is, when it's your personal data and personal files, it's probably worth some money to protect it. And it is a synchronizing backup program. So whenever you make changes, it's backed up immediately. It's also available on multiple computers, so you can be on one computer, work on a file. It would be updated on the other one because it's connected to the same, cloud. You can get to it from a web browser. So if you were somewhere far away and you needed to get to a file, it's backed up in there. And that also cross-platform, so we'll work on Windows. Windows has the internal ones. If you check that out, there's always some tapes or videos, tell you how to work that. But my personal feeling is I'm only concerned about my data, and what is it that you could not live without, and deal with backing that up using something like Free File Sync. Backs it up to a hard drive, so you've got one there. Using iDrive or pCloud, you've got it all backed up off-site that way. And the simplest of all is just copy paste. Copy your files and paste them to something. Don't even have to run a program, but then that's kind of work for you.
You have to remember when you do it that way.
Yeah. So those are programs that you can easily do with Windows. And of course, Microsoft has their own cloud drive, so you could do that. I know one of our APC guys has nothing on his devices. There is no files on his laptop, his computer, his phone. Everything is OneDrive. And so they all are backed up, access all from OneDrive, and it's all protected that way.
Yeah, and the good thing about OneDrive on Windows is it actually looks like a folder on your machine. So it looks like a folder in Windows Explorer, just like any other local folder, except it's called OneDrive and it might have a separate icon on it. But you drop files in there. They're actually local and they sync up to the cloud, sync both directions. So if you modify a file in that folder on your laptop and then you go to your desktop and you have OneDrive set up there, the changes will automatically be in that folder there too.
I think the problem with just backing up files and so forth is if you have a crash or whatever, and you reinstall Windows, you don't have all your programs. You have to reinstall programs.
That's true.
Like Photoshop or something you might have bought, like Quicken or whatever. You might have the Quicken files, but if you don't have the Quicken program, you can't open the Quicken files. So a backup, either cloning it to another drive or, full backup or whatever, that's what, you need to have that so you can get your programs to work again.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense to have a tiered approach. If you're limited on storage space or how much you're willing to spend in the cloud, then you would only, upload to the cloud like your documents and family photos that you cannot replace, right? All your tax documents. That's what I do. And then all the larger stuff that I can't afford to lose and I don't want to spend money to save in the cloud, I have that backed up locally, on an external drive, but not in the cloud. So if you want to back up your entire system, that's going to take more storage space than just backing up your documents and photos, but it's a give and take, decision for each person. How much work you want to go through to set your system back up versus, having to set it up from scratch and saving money on external hard drives and cloud server space.
Well, let's face it, folks, storage space is cheap now. It's not that expensive to get very large drives. You can back the entire system up. And what I do with mine is I have enough space on there. I back it up whenever. And then when I do my next backup, I leave the first one there and do a new backup. Then when I do another one after that, I delete the first one. So I always have two on there. One might be old, but at least it'll work. And like I say, I don't feel like it's a big issue as far as backup space goes.
Depends how much you have in your collection.
Well, yeah, I got a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, my P Cloud, people would look at me strange because I only have a 500 gig storage space in P Cloud. But when I checked my hard drive with everything I had, all the music I have, all the pictures I have and everything, I'm at, a couple of hundred gigabytes. So, 500 gigs is got plenty. I could back everything up, twice. But there are people who have a lot more, and 2 terabytes of cloud storage, is not that much. If you need that much. But you also, I forgot to mention that in Windows people and cross-platform, you've got, your Google Drive will also, work for, backing up if you're part of that group. But,
Yeah, Google Drive works with Windows, it works with Linux, it works with Android. It works. I use Google Drive to back up my iPhone also. And my Google Drive's only 100 gigabytes. It's dirt cheap, but it fits all my photos and documents. And then my external drive at home that I used for backup is 16 terabytes. And I would never back that up to the cloud. That would just take way too long to upload and download. But. Any other questions, comments, complaints? Is it auction time? Raffle time?
Are we going to address Apple? Because Carol here has an Apple computer. And what is I know there's a bunch of them that will do, but I'm not sure it'll do a complete system backup.
That's Time Machine, backs up the entire system.
Okay. Now, how do you restore it?
Well, I could only show you the Linux solution.
Yeah, see.
I've never restored, but I mean, on Time Shift, which is like the Linux knockoff, there's a backup tab and a restore tab. But you're saying, how do you restore it if you have a complete system failure?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't use Mac OS. I've never had a Mac.
So nobody here has one.
You go to the Apple store, buy a new one, and they back it up to the cloud.
Is that what it is? Probably. Yeah, my iPhone, I would I'd either do a factory reset, or if it's destroyed, I'd take it in for a warranty or extended service plan replacement.
Yeah.
Or
The-
cloud.
The programs, we're talking about for image backup, Macrium Reflex is one of them that a lot of people use. The club, when we had our classroom, we use the is it the Aomi one, as for the image backup, and you run that off of a thumb drive, or in the old days disk, and when you had to restore, you'd throw the disk in, and then you would tell the program, where is my image, and it put it right back in, and everything came back up. So that's what you're looking for, a clone or an image backup to save all of the programs that you've added. And that even happens just, when Microsoft does an update, there are times when you remove anything that's not a Microsoft product, and then you have to put it back on. In the old days, that wasn't a problem because we all had floppy disks, or we had CDs that we could reinstall the program. The problem now is with the cloud, hopefully you keep track of your certificate or whatever you've got serial number, because you can go back to the cloud and just download those programs as long as you got those magic numbers.
Well, for Windows, Windows has the system restore, which will let you restore your system if you do like a software upgrade or something that breaks your system. You can do system restore to restore it to the previous state. The problem with that is that by default, it does the system restore on the same hard drive as your Windows installation. So if that drive burns up, you don't have anything to restore it from. That's why it's better to set it up to use a second disk, or ideally an external drive for your backups. There's another tool called Clonezilla. It's actually, you can put it on a USB stick, you plug it in, it lets you clone your your hard drive, basically, one-for-one copy to an external hard drive. You write the date or whatever on there, you save it. If your machine dies, you have that backup where you can use Clonezilla again to restore the entire image to your hard drive without any loss of programs, operating system settings, files. But you would want to keep, incremental backups of all your files from between then and the next time you create a backup. You'd lose everything.
Does that work for Apple?
It should, it would work on an Apple machine with an Intel processor, not one with a new ARM processor. Yeah.
Okay.
Clonezilla should work. It's worth trying.
Oh, the other cloning program was the Asus. We used that in the beginning with the classroom, and then we switched to the last one, Aomi. Yeah, that's the one it was. 'Cause we liked working it. So there's a couple of programs out there that are free, some that are costing money. Macrium Reflex, you need to get out and get a copy of it right now, because at the end of the year it goes to a fully paid program. And so that's one program you need to get now.
Yeah, I seem to recall something called Ghost Image or something like that from back in the day. They used to use that to image, machines en masse at businesses. But I
You
don't.
can always buy or use Acronis too, they can back up.
Yeah, I've heard of that one being very popular. Yeah, some external drives even come with a free copy of Acronis.
I think the big focus is from Adam's last thing about the best backup program is what you use. And what we want is you to be using something. Doesn't have to be elaborate, doesn't have to be whatever. Just start something where you're backing up what you can't afford to lose. Because we're all here to tell you, from the guys upstairs in the repair group and all of us that have worked on that, you are going to lose your files at some point. I just got an email from Jackie Morgan. And a lot of you remember her. She did a lot of photo workshops for us years ago. I haven't talked to her in years. Her computer died. And they even said when they were trying to work on it that they think that her hard drive was kind of corrupt, and they're trying to recover all of her files. If you have your stuff backed up, I'm one of the people that I don't worry about the ransomware virus that's out there. Because if the virus hits, my backup has all my files. I just wipe the computer and reinstall. But if you don't have something backed up, ransomware is going to get you. Hard drive failure is going to get you. So you need to start now. You need to start now, because you come to us and say, you know, my hard drive died and we can't access it to recover your files. There's nothing we can do about it.
Sometimes you get lucky and the hard drive's failing and you can still get all the files off right before it finally kicks the bucket, right?
Exactly.
That happened last repair meeting. And another thing to not forget about or to discount is human error. You can accidentally delete things that you want to keep. And if you have a backup, you're not hitting yourself in the head quite as hard. Right.
Another thing, on the note of a backup drive that you got hooked to your computer, when you're done backing it up, disconnect that drive so that ransomware can't hit it, because it can.
Or if it has a switch, you can just power it off and power it back
Yeah,
on.
as long as it's not powered up or whatever.
Yeah.
Nancy Grauer has her hand up.
Well, Adam, good job.
Thanks.
But, not that, but
Nope.
most of the stuff you talked about, I don't know what it is. However, I have 2 external drives and I manually put what I want to save on each of those drives. Takes a long time, very difficult. Then I have found that one of my drives has 137 items. The other drive has 142 items. And I'm wondering, what's the difference? How did it become a difference? So somehow I'm going to have to, as John has said, copy the one that has 147 items over to the other one. But my point is, that's the only way I know how to back it up. Now, looking at my documents and all, I'm wondering how many of these documents are on those drives? I don't know.
Yeah, there are tools available where you can compare 2 directories to see what the differences are in the files, or even look for duplicate files. I was coming through my files on my machine, I think it was Friday afternoon, and realized I had a lot of duplicates I didn't even know about, and I used a tool to identify and delete the duplicates. That was on Linux, but I think there's something for Windows called Beyond Compare that'll let you compare 2 directories for either duplicate files or files that are missing on one or the other.
So that's another item you need to buy, another item you need to learn, correct?
I don't know if Beyond Compare is a free item. I've only heard of it. I've never actually used it. I don't know if it's free or not.
Well, you know that Free File Sync is free, and that will do the comparison and tell you exactly what's different on both drives.
Guess who you're getting a call from, John?
And Nancy, you're right. You've got to learn something new. Technology is not history.
John,
Yeah.
you're 20, 30 years older than this one. And there's a lot of difference in the brain system.
We're not that far
technology.
apart.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah.
Use it or lose it. I know some guys in here that are still learning stuff all the time. Mr. Everett right behind me here, he's a lifetime learner.
Oh, we all are.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that history does not change. It's been there and done. But
Well,
technology is something that's always evolving and changing, and new ways to do things, better ways to do things. And, you know, so, yeah, but we can learn. It's easy enough. We can have a workshop on how to use a program like free file sync or how to use
Good.
the cloud
That's good,
backup or
John. There you
something.
go. I'm coming if it's a day I can.
Hey.
Nancy, you might want to bring both of your backup drives to repair or a Friday meeting with John and work it out.
That's a good idea. If it's Windows related or internet related, I never know which is which. Thank you.
Well,
For the,
if you show up at a Linux meeting, we can compare the two backup drives.
Yep.
Oh, well, I thought that was only for Linux operating system.
Well,
Well, backup drives are just drives and we can look at them and tell you what's the
Regardless,
same
okay.
and what's different.
because we'll use Linux to figure it out.
same for
Okay.
the repair meeting. You can bring those type of things to the repair meeting and we're happy to help. What's up?
How easy is it to restore a lost file? I mean.
Without a backup?
Identify it. There's a whole list of them.
Oh, without a backup? Or with a backup?
What if you lost a file and you need to restore it, how do you do it? What's it?
It depends on
Does
your
it have a
backup.
big number or what does it have?
It
I've never
depends
done
on your
that.
it depends on your backup solution.
Okay.
If you know what file you're missing, you go to your backup, grab the file and copy it down.
Do you look the same way?
Should. That's
Look the same way as
the important
it's on
thing.
your computer?
That's the important thing about testing the restore process of your backup before you lose the files, right? To make sure it's going to work.
Well, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you've done a backup,
yeah,
it's all on your backup.
right,
And let's say you lose a file, you delete it or whatever,
right,
and you know the name of it or something about it.
okay.
Even where it was in documents or whatever, you go to your backup. Because see, the program that you have on your computer to do the backup is able to
Restore.
uncompress it. It's actually a compressed file. So it does that on the fly. But anyway, you go to your backup, you locate C drive, documents, blah, 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 blah. Find that thing, copy and paste it back to your system, and you're good to go. I've done that a number of times.
I didn't know if it just had a big long number or what, how could you
Well,
identify what you need?
It's different with different backup systems. Like the one I showed on Linux, it opens up the backup database and it lets you browse through the files just like a regular folder on your hard drive. There's other solutions where it copies everything in the same format where you just browse, like if you have a C drive, you browse to the D drive and there's your backup. Then you can just grab the files.
Would there be dates on this file that you were gonna try to restore? Or how am I gonna?
It's going to be different it depends on what solution you have,
Okay.
but yeah, that's why it's a good idea to get comfortable and be very familiar with the backup tool that you're using, whichever one you decide.
Yeah, with mine, I usually use this, and the backup folder for the entire backup has a name and a date that you made that backup. But once you get inside of that, everything is exactly the same as it was on that
Mhm.
computer as it was copied.
And a lot of tools that use incremental backups, it'll look like there's 20 copies of your data with different dates on them. But really, if you open up a file folder, it's basically just showing you the status of all the files as of that date and time. But it's not really not having copies. It's using hard links to make it look like separate copies of everything, but it's really just, a copy of each version. There's not 20 copies of one file unless it's changed 20 times.
Wouldn't hurt anything if you just restored the whole section, would it? I mean, it's gonna copy over what's already there.
You risk losing anything you changed. Right?
Well, what program are you using?
Pardon me?
What program are you using for that?
I've never had to do one. That's why I'm asking.
Okay,
I'm using Carbonate.
Can you go to the
Everything,
Carbonate website and see your files on the website?
I can't see anything. And they just say, we copied 17,000 files last month.
I would
That's all I get.
I would figure out how to go see your files. They should have a website where you can see your
I
files.
can, but I never had to.
It's a good idea to make sure you can see them and access them. It would stink to think you're protected and then find out it's uploading 17, Windows operating system files that you didn't want and then nothing that you need. Yeah. Any other comments, notes? Jim, sir? Anyone else have any other questions? Anything at all? All right, lesson learned. I'll bring a Windows example next time for all you Windows fans. All right, thanks everyone. I think we can stop recording. Or do we don't record the raffle, do we?
Well, yes, we do. No, we don't record it.
All right,
I'm gonna stop the recording.
all right.